Welcome back to the Anti-Fragile Mindset. I'm Christine Reeves Beleznay. As I'm recording this episode, the Skate Canada NextGen Competition has just wrapped up in Gatineau, Quebec. And first, I want to acknowledge every athlete who stepped onto that ice this weekend. For some, it was a breakthrough performance. For others, it probably wasn't the weekend they hoped for. We saw skaters who looked calm and confident and composed start to finish. We saw others who looked physically exhausted by the second half of their programs. And some athletes made an early mistake and never seemed to recover emotionally. Others made a mistake, took a breath, reset quickly, and finished stronger than they started. Watching this competition reminded me of something we often forget as spectators. We're quick to judge the outcome, but we sometimes forget everything that led up to it. The long summer days, the countless repetitions, the physical fatigue of summer training, the emotional ups and downs, the frustration of trying to make new skills feel natural and normal. Every athlete we watched this weekend has spent months building towards those first few minutes on the ice. And that's what today's episode is really about. Because whether you're competing at NextGen, training for your first star competition, preparing for a sectional qualifying event, or simply trying to land a new jump, you're all experiencing the same thing. You're asking your brain and body to do something different, harder, newer, maybe even something they've not done before. And that rarely feels good or normal. In fact, it almost always feels awkward at first. Before we go any further, I also want to remind you of something important. We don't know what each athlete was carrying onto the ice. We don't know whether or not they're dealing with accumulated fatigue or a recent growth spurt, an injury, equipment changes, nerves, or simply the emotional weight of wanting something so badly. Performance is always a much bigger part of a bigger story. And today I want to explain why summer training feels the way it does. Because once you understand what's actually happening inside your training, you stop interpreting every temporary struggle as I'm not good enough, I can't do it. It's not permanent failure. And that one important mental shift can completely change how you approach every practice. Welcome to Season 2 of the Anti-Fragile Mindset Podcast. I'm Christine Reeves Beleznay. For nearly 4 decades, I've experienced this sport from almost every perspective. As a skater, a professional performer, a coach, an author, and now a high-performance mindset coach. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Every athlete struggles. The difference isn't whether you struggle, it's how you learn to respond when you do. So if you're a figure skater, coach, parent, or athlete who's ever questioned yourself, doubted your progress, or wondered if you're the only one struggling, you're in the right place. Because this podcast is about more than performing under pressure. It's about learning how to grow through challenge. Every week, we'll explore the conversations athletes are already having in their own minds, but rarely say out loud. Together, we'll learn the tools to navigate those moments with confidence, curiosity, and resilience. One conversation, one lesson, one step closer to becoming an anti-fragile athlete. This week, we're going to talk about the biggest misunderstandings that most skaters have about summer training. And one of the biggest misconceptions in skating is, if I'm working hard, I should be improving every day. Sounds logical, doesn't it? But that's not how skill development works. Progress isn't linear. It's messy. It's inconsistent. Some days you'll feel amazing, and other days you'll wonder if you've forgotten how to skate. And that doesn't mean your training isn't working. In fact, it often means your training is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Because before your brain can perform a movement automatically with muscle memory, it has to build a completely new movement pattern. Think about learning a new jump entry. The jump already feels comfortable, you can do it, and then you add this completely different entry that you've never tried before. At first, The old entry feels so much easier, and the new one feels awkward. It feels weird. It feels completely unnatural. Your brain keeps wanting to go back to what it already knows because that's what it's wired to do. Your brain tells you, if we do it this way, I know I'm going to land it. So that's the safe way. But what we don't do by learning something new is grow. Because if you always go back to what's comfortable, you'll never become the skater that you're capable of becoming. That awkward stage isn't evidence that you're doing it wrong. It's evidence that your brain and body are learning something they've not done before or is challenging, different. So let that sink in for a moment. Because if you can remember that sentence during your next frustrating practice, you'll approach your training very differently. Now, I remember summer training, and I remember it being long and hot and tiring and difficult. There was always something new to learn, harder jumps, new spins, new jump entries, different transitions, pushing for more speed into every element, learning two completely different programs, more off ice, more conditioning, more repetition. For almost the first half of the summer, nothing felt natural. Elements I'd competed for years suddenly felt foreign, like I couldn't do them. My timing felt off. My programs felt awkward. Everything required so much thought. It was so frustrating. But at the same time, I found it very exciting. Here's the interesting part. I never really questioned whether or not I'd eventually get it. Determination was never something I struggled with. Impatience was. I kept asking myself, why is this taking so long? Why can't I do this yet? Why didn't it just click? Why did it take weeks before everything finally started to flow and feel good again? Looking back now, I also realized something else. I didn't fully appreciate how much recovery mattered in the summer. With all those hours of training, was I getting enough hydration? Was my nutrition sufficient enough? With that physical fatigue, was I recovering well properly after each day? What mental fatigue did I have? All of those things affect learning. And at the same time, I thought something was wrong with me, wrong with my ability. Now I know nothing was wrong. I wasn't slow to learn. I wasn't losing my skating. I wasn't becoming less capable than others. I was doing exactly what every athlete has to do. I was building something stronger than what I had before. And so what changed when I became a professional? Well, it wasn't until I made that switch to a professional skater that my relationship with learning completely changed. In the shows, learning became part of the job. Sometimes we'd learn 6, 7, even 8 new numbers for an entirely new production. Sometimes someone was injured and you'd get thrown in at the last minute with very little practice time. And everything felt awkward. There wasn't time to kind of wish it felt easier. You were expected to do it. It was expected that it wouldn't feel exactly right. But that's the difference. I no longer interpreted awkwardness as failure. I understood it was simply the first stage of mastery. If we wanted to continue performing at the highest level, if we wanted to keep being invited to elite competitions, if we wanted contracts with the biggest touring productions, we had to keep evolving, learning new lifts, new throws, new choreography, new skills. Growth wasn't optional. It was expected. It was our job. And yes, I still got frustrated. I still wish things came faster and easier. But frustration no longer meant I couldn't do it. It no longer meant I was failing or that there was something wrong with me. It simply meant I was in the middle of learning. So looking back now, I realize the biggest thing that changed wasn't my ability. It was my interpretation of my struggle. As a young competitive skater, I thought that awkwardness meant I wasn't good enough. I wasn't learning. I wasn't getting it fast enough. As a professional, I understood that awkwardness was just the first stage. It was just part of becoming better. The struggle hadn't changed. My perspective had. And that changed everything. Many of these stories and the lessons they taught me are in my memoir, Glitz and Grit Beyond the Spotlight. And it's not just a story about skating. It's a story about resilience, about learning how to move through that fear, that awkwardness, that difficulty, through the setbacks, through the failures, through reinvention and improvement. And if today's episode resonates with you, I think you'll find encouragement in those pages too. And you'll find it at Barnes & Noble, Indigo, and on my website at christinereeves.ca. And so let's discuss why sometimes summer feels so hard. Because summer isn't a break from skating. For many athletes, it's the most demanding part of the year. Yes, there are competitions, and some skaters have already competed. Others are preparing for August or September events. Junior athletes have already competed at NextGen. But regardless of where you are in the season, summer is still where the biggest development happens. You're increasing jump difficulty, building new combinations, refining technique, developing stronger skating skills, learning entirely new choreography, conditioning your body to handle more difficult programs. And at the same time, nothing feels automatic yet. Nothing feels smooth. Muscle memory is still developing. Those programs feel tough. They're difficult. They don't feel smooth. You're still deciding which jumps belong in the program, which spins are ready, which transitions work, and which ones still need more time. And that's mentally exhausting. Because your brain is constantly solving problems, trying to develop and learn, your nervous system is working overtime. Your body and your mind are physically tired. Your emotions are close to the surface. When fatigue increases, patience usually decreases. That's why frustration becomes so common during the summer months of training. Not because you're failing, not because you're not good enough, because you're asking your mind and body to adapt to new, more difficult things. And so frustration really itself isn't the problem. It's what frustration convinces you to believe. It whispers things like, I should have this by now. Other skaters are landing it. I'm not. What's wrong with me? I landed it yesterday. I can't today. Everyone else is ahead of me. I'm falling behind. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. Those thoughts create a lot of pressure. Pressure creates tension in the body. And that tension changes how well you bend your knees, your timing of everything that you do. And that change in timing, that tension, that stiffness of the body creates more mistakes. Now, frustration becomes a cycle, not because of the jump or your ability, because of the story you're telling yourself. Don't mistake the learning stage for not being able to do it, for failing, for not being good enough. They're not the same thing. So in the summer, we want to make sure that we stop measuring our summer training only by what jumps have been landed, what new spins I've learned, how easily I get through and clean I get through my program. One of the biggest mindset shifts you can make this summer is not to measure your summer by only the landed jumps. Measure it by improved habits. Ask yourself, did my takeoff improve? Did my air position get better, tighter? Did I commit on the takeoff? Did I have more speed going into my jumps? Are my spins more centered? Are they staying in position longer and more consistently? Did I recover faster after my program or after my mistakes? And did I stay patient? Those are the things that build your season and build confidence in your ability. Growth isn't always visible while it's happening. Sometimes the biggest improvements are happening beneath the surface. And now we come to one of the mistakes that a lot of skaters make, especially in the summer. And it's called the comparison trap. Social media can make summer training even harder. On top of watching your fellow teammates that you train with on the ice land things that you haven't landed yet, or learning new level 4 spins that you're still struggling with. Because while some athletes do share the falls and struggles in their social media, what we usually remember are only the successful moments. We don't remember all the falls and then the landing. We just see the highlight reel. We see the landing. We see that they've accomplished it and I haven't. And so what we don't see is the hundreds of attempts over days or weeks that made that moment possible. We also forget that every athlete develops differently. Bodies change. Growth spurts happen that affect timing. Hormones can affect strength and mood, energy, coordination, confidence. Some skaters develop power early. Others develop artistry first. Some improve quickly, and others have consistent, steady improvement over time. Comparing your chapter 4 to somebody else's chapter 12 has never been a fair comparison. Your job isn't to become a version of their success. Your job is to keep building yours. And one of the biggest anti-fragile mindset shifts that you can make this summer is, instead of asking, why can't I do it? Maybe ask, what is today's struggle teaching me? And what about, instead of, oh, I can't do it, or I'm getting worse, maybe try, I'm building a better jump, I'm building a better spin, I'm building a better program, I'm building a better skater, or I'm rebuilding into something stronger, better. Maybe instead of saying, I should already have this by now, maybe try saying, I'm becoming the athlete who eventually will have this, who will be able to do this consistently. Language matters. Your brain listens to every word you repeat. So we have to learn to choose words that build our confidence and not sabotage it. And so for our anti-fragile principle of the week for this episode, try not asking yourself at the end of every session, how many jumps did I land today? Instead of asking yourself that, why not try asking, what did I improve today? What challenged me the most today? What am I most proud of? And what will probably feel a lot easier next week if I stay patient? Because that's how growth works. It rarely announces itself in one great practice. It quietly builds through work, through repetition, through dozens of difficult attempts. And we have to trust that process, trust the build, know that it's going to get better, because it always does. And so as we continue with today's anti-fragile principle, I want you to remember that growth feels awkward before it feels automatic. And we all know that. It's common sense. But when we're in the midst of it, we're in the midst of that training, that working hard, and the frustrations coming up, we actually forget that very simple statement, that common sense knowledge that we know growth feels awkward. And so every athlete wants confidence, but confidence isn't built by repeating only what already feels easy. And confidence doesn't all of a sudden show up in competition. Confidence is built day by day, rep by rep, staying committed to the process while you're learning, while it's difficult, while it's awkward. That's why that difficult, awkward learning stage matters. It's where your brain is creating new movement patterns. It's where your body's developing new strength. It's where your nervous system is learning to trust those new skills. And if you quit because it feels uncomfortable, then you'll never give yourself that experience, the confidence that comes from overcoming a challenge, struggling and getting it, gaining mastery over something new. And so this week, try not to judge yourself by how comfortable you feel. Judge yourself by whether you're staying committed to the process, knowing that those awkward learning stages are going to eventually grow more and more comfortable that muscle memory is going to kick in, and you're going to have that success of whatever it is you're working on. Because growth always feels awkward before it feels automatic, before the muscle memory sinks in. So this week's practice challenge, I want you to try something after every practice this week. Before you leave the rink or before you go to bed that night, write down 4 things. 1, what did I improve today? 2, what challenged me today? 3, what still feels awkward? And 4, what will probably feel easier next week if I stay patient? That's it. Just 4 easy questions. No judging, no criticizing, just observing. Because that's what high performers do. They collect information, they adjust, they improve. They don't allow one difficult practice or one difficult week to define who they are. They understand that confidence isn't built into perfect practices. It's built by showing up every day, especially during the difficult training sessions. I'd love to hear how this exercise works for you. So share one thing you learned this week in the comments on YouTube, or connect with me on social media. Let's keep building this together. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're looking for more support, I'd love to continue the conversation. You'll find mindset resources for skaters, parents, and coaches that you can start using right away. Just go to www.christinereeves.ca/resources. And if you're looking for more personalized support, contact me for a complimentary 20-minute coaching consultation where we can talk about your goals, the challenges you're facing, and how mindset training can become part of your performance journey. And you can learn more about that at christinereeves.ca/coaching. And if you enjoyed today's Behind the Spotlight story, I think you'll really enjoy my memoir, Glitz and Grit Beyond the Spotlight. It's filled with stories from my years touring professionally around the world and the mindset lessons that came from those experiences, lessons that continue to shape me as a skater, coach, professional today. The book is available through Indigo, Barnes & Noble, and directly from my website, christinereeves.ca. And so next week, we're going to continue this conversation by exploring something almost every athlete experiences during the spring and summer training. The biggest mistake figure skaters make when learning new or higher level jumps. And if you found value in today's conversation, I'd really appreciate if you like and subscribe to the channel. Share this episode with a teammate, coach, or a skating parent. So, what's one lesson your training taught you this week? And I'd love to continue that conversation with you in the comments. Thank you for spending time with me today. And remember, the awkward stage isn't evidence you're doing it wrong. It's evidence that your brain and body are learning something new or different. Perfection isn't the goal. Excellence is the pursuit. And becoming a better skater is the journey. So train your mind, trust your training, perform with purpose. One conversation, one lesson, one step closer to becoming an anti-fragile athlete. Until next time, stay connected, stay coachable, stay resilient, and keep moving forward, building confidence.